The Burrow by Franz Kafka is a funny little story, posthumously, like most of his works, published, and it concerns, strangely enough, even for Kafka, a kind of hegemonic animal that is from the point of view, so it's an anthropomorphized animal that is speaking to you, kind of in the same fashion as a report from an academy with Red Peter the ape, where human like uh, or rather human like qualities are given to these different animals, and in this case, it's this unnamed kind of typical burrowing creature that he never really quite um, clears up. At first, I thought it was like some kind of like gopher, maybe, or like a groundhog. But then later on, I was like, like he didn't drop any more details regarding, like what exactly it does, because it has its like, well, I'm using my forehead, to kind of make contact with the outside world, and then in addition to that, he has to be very on his guard and defensive about his little keep area, and he kind of describes it a lot like in human terms, even more like kind of like castle keeps, like, yeah, like very strangely kind of just acting as if this are all just kind of fun and games taken part by a bunch of men and women, but it's just a bunch of animals kind of going at each, like trying to fight each other and for the territory and land, and yeah, he's makes tons of obsessive maneuvers and does all these different things in order to make sure the burrow is like completely satisfactory and safe from enemy forces. And he's like spends much of the short story doing this, and it's quite funny because he keeps going back and he's like, I've it seems that our burrow is like down, there's like a little part down on the other side of the south side that's a little bit in disrepair, or like, like is in need of my help, so I'm going to go down there. And it's just like kind of happens again and again, which I guess is probably the most animalistic part of it. Is like the interesting thing is that it's taking away the linguistic aspect, but at the same time it's also retaining, I guess, its creatureliness, or bestialness, I guess, by these compulsions that it has no choice but to defend it. So yeah, it also progresses from there. He starts like getting really weirdly into this noise that he hears, and he's trying to figure out like what it is and like how to get rid of it. So he's like there's this noise and it's like keeps happening. It's like I don't know if it's like a howling or like a kind of guttural kind of instinctual noise by other animals, but like it the whole time this particular creature's like that becomes his like itty fix, and he tries to go out and get rid of it. So yeah, then by the end of it, like there's literally at the end of the last sentence is something to the effect of, but all that remained unchanged. And it ends mid sentence too. So I think that's implying that Kafka himself um, didn't finish the story, and he's like kind of just in a similar way that the castle wasn't finished and just ends mid sentence. And I guess Max Brod stayed true to that kind of intention of, or rather, kind of midway point of, when he salvaged his works, like trying to make sure he stayed true to that initial um, unfinished state, I guess. So yeah, I guess the themes being, it could be just a take on like, I guess, the absurd again, like that shows up a lot in Kafka's work, especially with the metamorphosis too. Like that's one of his most famous kind of instances of just something really outlandish happening. But this is something more or less of maybe it could be a take on just kind of the. It's easy to keep coming back to like bureaucracies and stuff of the day, but there truly were a lot of them during the day that had a lot of power and say and like how things go. And Kafka, he could have been saying something to the effect of how ridiculous like these back and forth kind of negotiations or lack thereof, like nothing really makes progress. And like, um, but yeah, there's a quite an interesting little tale. Definitely recommend it. Yeah. I think you're probably gonna, if you're gonna read this, there's probably gonna be a bunch of other short stories because I remember reading them kind of like in a burst, some years back, and like a lot of them are actually online. If you go to Kafka.online, I believe the site, there are, I think like upwards to like, I'm not sure if it's like 40, but at least like a couple dozen or something, titles that he had, that are readily available. So the click of a button, so you can check that out. And I'm sure this, although I got this one in print, I'm lying around here somewhere. Um, I'm sure there's other, kinds that you can find that are, especially if you get like a collected version. I sometimes end up reading the same story twice because the like Jackals and Arabs I read like a couple times, and I was like, wait, I think I recognize this one, because there's a lot of different like kind of short story collections and stuff that have you know the same stories. So yeah, I think that's all I have for today. Check out the Burrow and other stories too by Franz Kafka. So, thanks.